What is going on, guys? Noah Brewer here, and today I'm going to be showing you how to do this. Now, this is a brand that I started in November of 2023. It is now March of 2025, but you can see in just a year, we were able to go from literally zero. We did $1,000 our first month because we had to get proof of concept, which we're going to be talking about in this video. And then we actually relaunched. We were able to get it to about 2 to 3K per day. And then it kind of steadied out throughout the rest of the year, but we were selling on TikTok Shop, and TikTok Shop we did about another 200,000 this year as well. So yeah, and pretty much exactly a year later, like after we had figured everything out, we were able to do multiple six figures, and then if you extend the year a little bit longer into December, even to today, you can see that this business is very seasonal. We had a big boom during Q4, and then it promptly died out right after, but you can see that we're slowly climbing again. But yeah, this is how you can grow a brand from zero to even multi six figures or even seven figures if you have better distribution than us. Unfortunately, we couldn't scale higher than this because we didn't have enough inventory. You can watch some of my other videos if you want more information on this brand and how I grew it. But this is what I'm going to be showing you how to do. Take a brand from zero to six figures, ideally seven figures in the first year. Like I said, we didn't have the best distribution, but you can easily do seven figures in your first year if you can find a winning product and scale it. So let's get right into the meat of the content here. So I basically have this little Google Doc that I'll be taking you through, and I am going to break this up into two parts because I don't really want to rush this. I want to make sure that I'm being diligent enough on each step and covering all the things, and I don't want this to be like an hour-long video. I also don't want to distract myself. Like in my eyes, you have two phases to this. You have the testing phase and you have the scaling phase, and this video is going to be about the testing phase. And then the part two that's going to be coming out next Friday is going to be about the scaling phase. So on a macro scale, you basically have this step-by-step process that if you just follow it very simply, you can do what I did. Because this is all that I did, which is, part one, which I guess this is like the testing phase. You need to find proof of concept on a product, and then you need to verify the proof of concept. And then part two is actually scaling. So you're moving out of the testing phase and into the scaling phase. And this is where you're going to basically, all you're doing is just you're pushing until you hit a wall, and then you climb over the wall, or you dig under it, or you go around it. You figure out a way to push past the wall. And then you push until boundary again, and you just keep doing this over and over and over again, and you're just constantly solving problems and scaling the business. So, but this is super duper macro scale. So this is obviously not the concept. Like if somebody asked me in 30 seconds, how do you build a really successful business? This is what I would tell them. However, we're going to be going very in depth on each of these steps. That way you can have a full spectrum of exactly what needs to get done, in what order, and what kind of things you're looking for along the way to make sure that you're progressing through these steps. So let's transition into the micro scale here. Step number one is to find proof of concept. This is basically the whole point of the testing phase. And I'm going to go through basically everything that you need to know in terms of finding proof of concept with e-commerce in the way that we did it for this brand. Essentially, what your plan should be is to test 1 to 2 products per week until you are profitable. This sounds super duper tedious, and it definitely is tedious, but it can be exciting in the beginning, especially if you're just starting out. Like at my stage, most of this stuff is outsourced, but this is basically the steps to testing products. First, you have to find a product, then you have to add it to your list, which this is like a volume game. You're just getting ideas, throwing them in a list. We'll get into specific ways on how you can do each of these as well. And then you're going to prioritize them. You're going to build the store. You're going to get your images and your videos from the internet just to keep things easy. So we're not going to be spending a ton of time and money, getting creatives and hiring designers. Like, we're going to keep it very simple in the beginning just until we get proof of concept. And then we're going to test it with paid ads and then decide whether to cut or scale it. So let's break down each of these steps. So product research, which is step number one, find a product. A lot of people get tied up in this. This is probably the most important part of the whole process, but it's also the hardest to learn and the hardest to perfect. And a lot of people think that there's one method that's better than another, and there's also these crazy data points and analyzation and research that you have to put in to a product to figure out if it's a win or not. And you can see on my notes, any product research is suitable. Like any type of product research, you can find winning products literally any way. You can walk through Walmart, find a product, and be like, oh, I'm going to test that. You can also, look at these different platforms like AliExpress, Temu, Google Trends, TikTok, different spy tools, that pull advertising data from the internet and let you sort through them. Facebook ad library, Etsy. Like there's so many different platforms and tools that are out there that put a bunch of ideas in front of your face that you can then pick one that you like. And again, that's all that this is about, the actual product research method. And you can use any method you want. The point is, you want to find products that you think could sell good based on your prior experiences and your opinions. We'll get into this in a minute, and I'll also give you some criteria that you can follow to make sure that you're not testing stupid shit. But as you're doing the product research on all of these platforms or whatever way that you want to do it, you want to add them to a product list. And a lot of people's product lists are like way too complex. Like I see people will like put like, how many views it has, and they'll track it every day, and like they'll just get really, really crazy with the actual product research. Don't do any of that stuff. This can literally just be an empty Google sheet that you're just pasting, AliExpress links and video ads in. It doesn't have to be anything fancy. And honestly, like watching other people's stores and trying to figure out what works for other people and trying to copy them, in my opinion, it's fine to do, but just because something works for somebody else does not mean it's going to work for you. And same thing vice versa. Like just because it doesn't work for somebody else doesn't mean it's not going to work for you. So, I would say that it's more comes down to like what you think is best and what you think you can, sell in the best way. And this is why it's like such a hard thing to teach, is because it's something that has to be developed over time and actually learned with experience. So do not stress the product research phase, especially if you're just a beginner. The point is you want to get in the rhythm of testing 1 to 2 products per week before you start worrying about the actual nitty-gritty of all the things. And then obviously you can hone in and improve your skills along the way. But for those of you that do want some sort of criteria to follow, you basically want a 50% margin. So if the product is going to cost you $20, you need to be able to sell it for at least 40, ideally 80. Okay, so you need a big enough margin to scale. You can't scale on like a 20%, 30% margin. You can test on a 30% margin, but I'm telling you that eventually you're going to have to get it above 50%. Unless it's like a unicorn and you just have like a huge ROAS, then it's fine. But obviously then you're going to be dealing with like low net margins, which is like not super sexy. I would follow this. 75% margin is ideal, 50% to scale. You want to have it in your mind, like you want a potential for returning customers and recurring customers, maybe cross-selling, maybe it's a product that has, similar products or complementary products. And I would say this is more important if you are, trying to scale a store really, really big, but it's also not even necessary. Like you could do millions of dollars without this. Like the brand that I was just showing you is just one product. Like there's no cross-sells, there's really no returning customers either. It's just super basic, just one product. So like I said, this one's kind of give or take. If you want a business with recurring, then keep this in mind. But if you're just starting out, go for the money. Like if you think the product's a winner and it doesn't have this, it's perfectly okay. Like I said, the brand that I just showed you doesn't have any of this, so it's fine. You want easy distribution and customization. Customization is not important. Like putting your logo on the product, I'd say is like, you can do it for any product, just some products are easier than others. Distribution is important though. You don't want to go out and sell a product that is hard to manufacture, or there's no current suppliers out there that can even work with you on it. And that was our problem with the brand. Like if you see that we were basically capped at $250,000 a month for November and December. And this is the reason, because the distribution of the product was not set up good. Like there's no manufacturing in China. It's 100% made in the USA from raw materials. We work directly with the manufacturer. So it was hard to find the raw materials and also to produce the actual product. So we were super behind and super limited on scale, which is why I'm adding this here, because it's one of the biggest lessons that I've learned in the last, 6 months in e-commerce is how important distribution is. When you actually hit a really, really profitable ROAS, you need good manufacturing and distribution to be able to scale. Otherwise, you're going to be capped, at 10K a day, 20K a day. Like we were capped at 20K a day at our biggest scale. And even that was a little bit sketchy because we were so behind. And then in terms of competition level, a lot of people get caught up on like, oh, I only want to do products that have no competition, or I only want to do products that have really, really big competitors. I would say it literally doesn't matter. I think you have a little bit of an advantage in the beginning stages if you sell a product that is untapped, but in the later stages, I think it actually hurts you more than it helps you. And it's actually better in the later stages if there are other big competitors that you can feed off of, as opposed to starting something from complete scratch where you're like the first big company to come out and scale it. Like that, in my opinion, is better for the beginning stages, which is why if you check my previous videos, most of the time I'm recommending the pioneer method, which is where you find products that are completely untapped and bring them to the market early on, like at least early on in that product's lifespan. But like I said, this can hurt you later down the road. So it's honestly better if you can find a winning product in a more competitive industry. It just might be a little bit harder. But again, that's not a blanket statement. It definitely depends product to product. Like sometimes it's easier to copy somebody and, basically just ride off of somebody else's success, from day one. But again, if you do find a product that is new, and it works, you're probably going to have like a fat ROAS, and it's going to be like this big thing that you can just scale and make a ton of money really quickly. Once you are at that scale, it might hurt because, if you ever get on Amazon or try to run Google ads, you'll notice there's not a lot of search volume. You're basically creating a market from scratch. So you can make your own decision there. I think it just doesn't matter, especially in the beginning stages. And then obviously you have your basic product research criterias. You want something with a wow factor. Like you don't want to go and try to sell a regular roll of toilet paper, but you can sell toilet paper. This is where a lot of people get confused. You don't want to sell like generic toilet paper. You want to sell special toilet paper. Maybe it's like super organic, or it has like essential oils on it. I mean, I'm just thinking out loud. Like it needs to have some sort of new benefit. It has to have something different. Like you have to be able to come out and be like, okay, this is something new. This is something different. It's not like anything else, and you can actually justify the markup, the perceived value markup that you have on the product with those benefits. So that's very, very important. And another thing that I would say, because this is just personal values, don't sell anything scammy. Make sure that the result is clear and logical with minimal explanation. So you'll come across products that are like not super great, and you can tell that they're a little bit sketchy on if it works or not. Yes, you can make a lot of money selling these products, but like then you're just trading morals for dollars, which I don't like doing, and I've never personally done it, and I've still made millions of dollars. So this is not something that I would entertain doing in any way. Keep your morals, keep your integrity, and just make sure that whatever you're selling actually works and it's very legit. The last criteria that I would say is your opinion. Like this is my most powerful criteria that I've used over the years to find the most winning products, which is basically just looking at a product and just listening to my gut. It sounds crazy, and I did have a lot of experience in e-commerce and testing products and scaling products before I started doing this. So I would say that this is probably not a good thing to do if you're just starting out. But I do think that your opinion over time is the most important factor when you're doing product research. Like in my opinion, it's not about analyzing what other people are doing. It's not about having all these data points. It's more about, can you see this product selling, scaling, having a good margin? Do you think that you can make good ads about it? Do you think it solves a real problem? Like these are just common sense questions that you should feel it inside. Like if you have a banger product, you should have a feeling where it's like you're just itching to test it because you think it's going to work so good. And the only way that you can build this skill and this feeling is if you actually go out there, test products, and see the results. And that's it. There's no cheating this system. And you don't really get good at this until you've had like 3 to 5 winning products, or you've tested like 30 to 50 products. But you really need some experience before you can really get good at this. And that's why I would add on, it's perfectly normal in the beginning stages to test a lot of products. I put 10 on my notes, but it could really be more than this. Like, I remember one of my older students that ended up actually making millions of dollars. He didn't find his first big winner until his 101st product test. What this means is that if you got into e-commerce and you were like, I'm going to test 100 products, and if I don't find a winner, I'm going to quit. If he said that and he stuck to that and he tested 100 products, didn't really have any big success. I think he had a couple winners in between that helped him recoup some of his losses. He would have never tested the 101st product, and that's the one that ended up making him, at the time, I think it was $250,000 in profit, like in a few months. So definitely life-changing amount of money. And this is why I say, like, this is perfectly normal to not have quick success in this industry. Focus on getting better, hone in your skills on the website, the ads, the product research, actually building product research and validation as a skill, and website building and ads. And like, this is something that has to be developed over time. In my opinion, it's important to not get caught up in all these crazy criterias and data and analytics and, spending 8 hours a day doing product research, because what's most important is that you're actually getting out there, testing products, and having that feedback loop where you find a product, test it, get the result, and then you're back to the drawing board. If you do that enough times, eventually you will find a winning product and you will make a bunch of money. It's just most people are not patient enough to actually do it consistently enough to have that success. And that's been like the number one holdback that I've seen in the e-commerce industry, and why you see people saying only 1% of people see success, because truly only 1% of people do this. Only 1% of people will actually test products consistently until they have success. Most people, and most of you watching this video, which is a statistical fact that probably more than not of the people watching this video right now, you are not going to test products consistently until they have a winning product. And this is the number one reason why people don't see success and they never get proof of concept in e-commerce. All right, let's define proof of concept, because I've said this so many times, but what does it actually mean? So this is like actual data, actual proof that the product will sell profitably for you. Okay, I'm gonna add this here because it's so important. Just because it sells for somebody else does not mean it's gonna sell for you. Same thing, vice versa. So this is the most important part here. It's actually going to work for you on your store, in your ad account, with your ads. So this is the most important part. A lot of people think that they can take a losing product or any product and just force it to work. And there are definitely a small amount of people that do this and have a lot of success doing this. I think it's a horrible strategy for beginners. And even somebody like me who's like, I've done over $30 million in e-commerce sales, I don't even like doing this, because I know that there are products out there that will just sell with and actually be profitable with minimal effort in the early stages. Like, before you invest a ton of money and time into the brand, it's just a fact. So while this is happening, I don't see a point in trying to take a losing product and make it a winner. Especially if you're doing paid ads. Like, if it's a winning product, most of the time it will be profitable with minimal effort. And I do think it is worth holding off until you find something that has profitability early on, as opposed to spending all the time and money and effort on trying to take a loser and turning it into a winner. So this is very, very important. And this looks like profitability within the first 2 to 3 days. Okay, a lot of beginners don't believe me when I say this, but for the brand I just showed you, we spent $150 to $200 per day on ads just for a couple of days in the beginning. And that was our test. And we were also testing 1 to 2 products per week at this time. I think this was our 3rd or 4th product that we tested. And we got back over $500 a day in sales. And our margin was, I believe, 50% at the time. So there was actual tangible profits in the first day. Actually, day 1 was profitable. But also day 2 was profitable. So it's not like we just had a lucky day, which we'll go on. We'll get into how you determine if you just had a lucky day later on. But this is what it looks like. Like, if you're spending $50 a day in the beginning and you're doing $50 a day in revenue, that could be something that is worth looking into. Maybe breaking even in the first few days could warrant more testing and moving into the next step, which is verifying proof of concept. Depending on the situation, I'd say if you're a beginner, probably not. But for me, I'd probably have my eye on it to some extent. But yeah, this is what it should look like straight profitability early on. If you don't believe that this is possible, you're wrong. I've proved it. I've had friends do it. I mean, I've had hundreds of students, over the years that have just came out, whipped up found a product, whipped up a store, and some of them do $1,000 a day one, and they're only spending $50. That's unbelievable proof of concept, and that's like something that I would be okay spending a ton of time and money into, because we have actual data that the product is actually selling for me. It's not only just working out in the market and I can see other people selling, but it's also selling for me. Once you have that, then you have proof of concept, and that's what that means. Now let's get into actually testing the product. So there's a few steps to testing the product. I'm not going to go too in depth on each of the steps. There's plenty of trainings and resources out there on YouTube, even on my channel, on how to do these types of things. So I'm not going to go too in depth on them, but first you have to find ads. You can either run image ads if it's an image ad type of product, something that doesn't need to be displayed or demonstrated or explained. Or if it does, then you can use a video, and you want to find these online. Don't get into the game of like testing products by like ordering the product and making videos and taking photos. Like, there's no need to do that. There's so much content already out there. And the point of getting proof of concept is just to keep it easy and simple and quick and cheap in the beginning. And the second you start getting into custom content and doing all that stuff, you're just ruining the point of even finding proof of concept in the first place. So just keep it extremely easy in the beginning. Then you're going to have to make a landing page where people can actually buy it. So the best way to do this is to go probably to the Facebook ad library and search up the product or niche that you're selling in. Find a brand that's been running ads for a while, like a few months at least, and then just look at their landing page and just mimic their landing page design. Obviously, don't take the text and all that stuff, but just use the design. You can make a general store as well, so that you can have multiple, or you can test multiple products on a single store, which is perfect. That's the best way to do it. And then you just want to make sure that your product page looks really, really good. And this basically means that you might need to edit some images, you might need to use some custom icons, and you can use a custom page builder like Gem Pages to really, really make it look branded. But you don't even need to. You can just use Shopify, especially in the early stages. But if you find a brand that is doing something you really like and you can't do it with Shopify, then that's when I would go to something like Gem Pages. And then once you have your ads and your website, now you have to actually launch ads and start driving traffic to the landing page. So best way to do this is with meta ads. And the reason I say meta ads, because I think it's the most versatile. It's also the most aggressive form of advertising, where your ad is basically finding somebody who's just natively scrolling through social media, and then you're convincing them to buy your product. If it works on meta ads, the chances of it working on other platforms is much higher, because it's basically the hardest advertising platform in terms of like conversion rate. So if it sells on here, that is really, really strong proof of concept. And you don't need a ton of money, but what you do need is like 2 to 3 days. So if you want to spend $100 per product that you test, I'd probably do a $50 per day budget. Give it 2 days. If it has like 0 sales, you can kill it. Like, I think 2 days, $100 is good enough. But if you have a sale or two on day 1 or 2, then you can leave it for a third day. If you want an actual really, really good ad strategy to follow, and the one that we used on our brand that I just showed you, then you can look up Leighton Schwenning on YouTube, and also Nick Therio, I'm not sure how to pronounce his last name, but those are the methods that we use to scale our brand, the one that I just showed you. So you can go find the actual meta ads strategy and how to set up the campaign. So many resources already out there. I utilize media buyers in all of my stores, so I'm not really in the ad accounts day to day, which is something that I'm working on changing right now. But I can at least forward you to the people that I've been able to learn from. All right, so let's say you test a product and you get your proof of concept. Like, let's say you're profitable in the first few days. What do you do now before you can actually fully transition into the scaling phase? First step, obviously, is you need to set up fulfillment, okay? And this is the reason why for our product test, you saw like a little blip, and then we killed it. So we actually launched it, had profitability for 2 days, and then we had to turn it off completely because we had no fulfillment. Like I said, you can't dropship the product that we're selling. There's no supplier out there that even has it. It's so new. We actually had to make it from scratch. So it took us 2 or 3 months to do that. So we were able to, get proof of concept, make the investment into the inventory and all the things to actually develop the product from scratch, which no, I don't recommend doing this as a beginner. I would recommend just using drop shipping and just selling products that you can use a drop shipping agent. Literally 99% of products you can use a drop shipping agent and it's fine. This is the easiest way. And once you have proof of concept, if you're actually making sales profitably, feel free to message me on Instagram if you want access to my drop shipping agent, as I'm happy to make the connection for you. Just make sure that you're actually in the, past the proof of concept stage. Like, you don't do this in the testing stage, which a lot of people fuck up as well. You only need to set up fulfillment after you start making sales. Okay, so message me if you need a dropshipping agent. If your margin sustains at 50% or higher after you have an agent, then you can continue to the next steps. If not, you may want to start testing price a little bit in these early stages to try to get to a 50% margin. Only reason I say this is because if you find the product and AliExpress has it for $20 or whatever, and you sell it for 40, you might switch over to an agent or actually go to fulfill that order and find out the product actually costs $30 to ship to the customer. If that's the case, you're gonna have to up your price from $40 to $60 in order to have the 50% margin. If your ROAS is like super duper fat, like if you have like a 5 ROAS, then maybe you could still scale it with not the best margins and up your prices later. That's also fine too. Like, you don't have to follow these rules, just use common sense. Verifying your proof of concept is basically making sure that you didn't hit a few lucky sales and you're actually structured for scale. So before you switch to the scaling phase, there's a few things that you want to do to actually make sure that you're not just like having a lucky time or whatever. Make sure that it's actually a winning product before you make any crazy commitments that we'll get into in the scaling phase. So step number 1, give it time. Like, give it like a week minimum of just spending $50 a day. You could maybe push the budget a little bit, but try to keep things consistent and steady in the beginning and just see if it holds over time. This is one of the easiest things that you can do. And it also gives you time to figure out fulfillment without needing to worry about scaling and pushing the budget. The next thing that you want to do to like verify your proof of concept is you want to push the budget. You don't want to just stay at $50 a day. Even if you are somebody who's like, oh, I'm happy making $50 a day in profit or whatever, it's not really how e-commerce works. At e-commerce or with e-commerce and paid ads, the lower scale you are, the less you're going to make, because it's going to be inconsistent. It's going to be volatile. So it's actually better to be at a higher scale and to be making more money because it's going to be more consistent and less volatile. So don't try to like hold on to profitability by keeping scale low. You actually want to keep scale, or you actually want to push scale, not too crazy, but you want to push it and make sure that you can actually get to a point where you're spending, at least $300 a day. And you're still holding, a 3 ROAS, 2 to 3 ROAS. 3 is pretty high, but you're at least holding like a 2 ROAS, 3 ROAS. And most winning products at $300 a day, they are going to maintain a 2 to 3 ROAS, no problem. So just verify that, and this could take 1 to 2 weeks to get the budget up to that point. As well as before you can actually scale to like 10K a day, 20K, 50K a day, you want to actually make sure that not only the creatives that you're running are proprietary, but everything is proprietary. So you want to make sure that you're not stepping on anybody's toes, using anybody else's trademarks or copyrights or creatives. So I'm saying creatives, but also goes for everything else. Like, you can absolutely, and you should scale if you're using repurposed creatives, or if you're using somebody else's product images. Like, you should take that as far as it can go, but you probably won't last very long until you get a DMCA takedown. This is just inevitable, and most of the time they're not going to actually sue you or anything like that unless you go really, really big with it. But they're just going to take you down. And my recommendation is you should test your own product, your own images, your own creatives, your own ads. And if this works, then your proof of concept is like way stronger, because again, if you're using somebody else's images, videos, whatever on your website, there is a chance that it can just get taken down and you lose everything overnight. And this did actually happen to us early on with the brand that I just showed you, because we were using somebody else's video as an ad, and it did eventually get taken down, in which we had to relaunch with our own ads. But I would not wait for you to get taken down to start working on this. I would start doing it right away. As soon as you have like the initial proof of concept, I would get your own images, creatives, all that stuff. And always make exact replicas of your product images, winning ads, whatever. Don't try to like reinvent the wheel here. Just like literally recreate, like mimic the exact ad or the exact images that you already have. And that's going to massively increase your chance of success from transitioning from like, repurposed content to your own content, is actually making sure that it's as identical as possible. Like if it's, a girl with brown hair in the video with blue eyes, make sure that you find a creator with brown hair and blue eyes. If it's, low lighting, make sure it's low lighting. If it's in the sun, make sure the sun is, don't film it on a cloudy day. Try to make it as exact as possible, because it's just going to increase your chances of your variable working. Now, if you do all of these things and you're still seeing profits, then congratulations, you have a winning product. It might seem like a lot, and it is a lot, but if you take it step by step, it's very, very simple. And once you get into the roll of things, you might find out that everything is like way simpler and easier than it sounds. But it is important that you be patient, because this process can take a long time, and finding proof of concept is really like striking gold. You're a gold miner, you're looking for gold, and this is your equivalent of finding gold. It can take a really long time, and you have to be very patient, but a single winning product can change your life. You can scale it very, very quickly. I've seen people go from 0 to multi six figures in profit in just a few months. Obviously, the brand that I just showed you took a little bit longer to have any massive success, but it was also making us money in the meantime as well. Once you have one winning product, you can make anywhere from like 30 to, however much $1,000. And once you have 2 to 3, then you are really going to have a skill and a business, a steady income stream that you can grind on full time and really, really like bring it to scale and bring it to a level where you can make millions of dollars. Like this is exactly what I did. I started in 2017, 7 years ago now, 6-7 years ago is when I started, and I have made millions of dollars. And this is exactly how I did it. It was basically just this over and over and over again. I'm going to keep part 2 for part 2 because this video is already getting extremely long, but I wanted to be diligent on every single step. So I will see you guys in part 2, where we talk about, once you have verified proof of concept, how to actually scale it, and some different challenges and things that you might run into early on and even later on down the road, and how to solve them. And I want to open that conversation as well. So hopefully this was extremely valuable to you. If it was, leave a comment, let me know. Join the community. Link is in the description if you want to build brands with me. That's pretty much it for this video. This is Noah Brewer, and I'm out. Peace.